Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's UK 2030 campaign. I'm Alistair Greener and today I'm talking to Patricia Zarita from BirdLife International. Welcome.
Hi, Alistair.
Now, the challenge, obviously, that the politicians and everybody else will say, well, how do we get this balance right? And interestingly enough, again, CNN reporting about some of the effects of the decisions made in the United States when it comes to, the climate change, when it comes to backing off on some of the policies that have been made by previous administrations. What's going to be the impact on that? And what's your take on the change of regulations and the fact that the US does seem to be pulling back from some of the initiatives that have been made beforehand?
Regulation is extremely important and it's part of, I would say, the triangle of the balance. You have the innovation of the business sector, the regulation from the government and the participation of civil society. If we start deregulating and moving away from the regulation that we have been able to set to really create a more sustainable planet, then what happens is that we start taking advantage of spaces and places that have been protected over time and have been producing extraordinary resources for us, whether it's water or pollination or climate resilience, and start creating an imbalance in the system. And it's not only in the United States. We're seeing it right now in Poland. After we thought the win over the Białowieża, now forests around a Natura 2000 site are being cut.
I thought that was quite staggering because we always associate, rainforests being decimated in South America or in the Far East, but this is actually virtually on our doorstep here in Europe.
And it's the oldest forest of Europe. So it is a question of how do we make sure that governments continue to push to see for the future and the long term, and how do we make sure that that regulation is enabling us to maintain the balance of nature, business.
But some would say, though, that they're doing this to feed this frenzy for biomass, and biomass, of course, is environmentally friendly, it's much better, but it has this knock-on consequence. How do you satisfy both demands?
So I think two things. When we were working from the civil society perspective and working with the European Commission to make sure that the nature directives were maintained in 2015 because they were under threat under the Juncker administration, we proved that the European public wants to have their nature protected. 550,000 signatures were collected in that consultation and is by far the most successful consultation that the European Commission has ever had. So first of all, people care. People care about nature. Second of all, when that happened, the whole European Commission went through a whole fitness check to understand whether the nature directives were really fit for purpose. And at that point, they realized that the nature directives had created a lot of positive economic impact and social impact all across Europe. So it's not only the protection of these key important areas around the European Natura 2000 system, but it's also the benefits that local people actually can draw from that. So by going after a Natura 2000 site in Poland, you're not only threatening the nature of that area, but the people around it. And in addition to that, when we talk about biomass for energy, we have to be extremely careful about what we're talking about, because forests are carbon sinks. The minute that you chop them down and burn them to get energy, then you're releasing all that carbon. So all that benefit of securing the carbon on those forests and maintaining the climate stable is gone. So when we're thinking about renewable energy, we have to think about solar, we have to think about wind energy, we have to think about other systems that are enabling us to be safer. I continue to believe that bioenergy is not necessarily the solution.
There's so much we could talk about here, and as you say, we're coming to a critical decade, so it'll be really interesting to see how things develop and whether or not some of the pushback against regulation in the States actually does change or not. But for the moment, Patricia Zarita from BirdLife International, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.